There is a version of strength you learned without ever choosing it, a version that didn't arrive with a lesson or a name, that simply became the way you learned to exist in the world. A strength that doesn't look dramatic or loud, that doesn't announce itself, that doesn't ask to be admired, a strength that feels more like staying upright when something inside you wants to sit down, like continuing when stopping would open questions you never had the time, safety, or permission to answer, like holding yourself together because that was what the moment required, or because nothing else ever felt like an option, and you may not even recognize it as strength at all because it feels so natural, so automatic, so woven into how you move through your days that it barely registers as a choice. It simply feels like how you remain functional, how you keep things from becoming heavier than they already are, how you make sure life keeps moving forward even when parts of you feel far away, because you are the one who doesn't fall apart, the one who stays composed, the one who can be relied on, the one who keeps going even when something inside grows quiet, even when your inner world thins out and becomes harder to hear. And for a long time this way of being may have been necessary. There were moments when feeling fully would have been overwhelming, moments when slowing down would have meant falling behind or being left alone with feelings no one else had space for, moments when acknowledging what you felt would have required a response that wasn't available, so you learned to stay steady, to stay capable, to stay intact. And this wasn't denial or coldness, it was adaptation, a careful, intelligent response to circumstances that asked you to prioritize stability over expression. You learned, slowly and without instruction, that strength meant not needing too much, not asking for pauses, not letting emotions interrupt the flow of what had to be done. You learned how to keep your voice calm even when something inside you trembled, how to explain things clearly even when words were covering something raw, how to move forward without lingering, without looking back too closely at what you left behind. And people may have admired this about you, may have trusted you because of it, may have described you as resilient, dependable, grounded, someone who holds things together. But inside something else was happening, something quieter and harder to name, because strength, when it becomes the only acceptable state, slowly begins to narrow the range of what you allow yourself to feel. Without realizing it, you begin to associate composure with safety, control with worth, steadiness with being okay, not consciously, not as a belief you could articulate, but as a felt sense that lives in the body. And when emotions rise, your system responds by tightening, by organizing, by stepping into efficiency. You don't fall into feeling, you rise above it. You analyze, contextualize, stabilize. And from the outside this looks impressive, mature, balanced, while from the inside it can feel strangely hollow, like standing on solid ground that no longer feels warm. There is a difference between strength that carries you and strength that distances you, between endurance that supports life and endurance that replaces it. But that difference is subtle and easy to miss, especially when emotional avoidance doesn't look like running away but like standing tall, like staying calm when you're hurt, like being understanding when something crossed a line, like choosing explanation over sensation, perspective over presence, clarity over contact, stability over honesty. You don't ignore emotions outright, you refine them, you translate them into something manageable, something socially acceptable, something that won't disrupt the equilibrium. You turn sadness into reflection, anger into insight, longing into patience, disappointment into understanding, and in doing so you remain composed. But composition carries a cost, because emotions don't disappear when they're bypassed. They settle elsewhere, they wait, they store themselves in the body. in the way your shoulders stay slightly tense even when nothing is wrong, in the way your breath remains shallow without you noticing, in the way rest never quite feels complete, in the way joy arrives but doesn't stay long enough to sink in. You may begin to notice that your life feels orderly but distant, that you understand yourself well but feel yourself less, that you can speak about experiences fluently while feeling oddly removed from them. And this isn't numbness exactly, it's containment, a careful holding in that keeps things from spilling over but also keeps them from moving through. And again, this didn't come from failure or avoidance, it came from necessity. At some point, feeling deeply may not have been safe, or welcomed, or useful. Maybe there was no one to receive it. Maybe it slowed things down when efficiency mattered. Maybe it complicated situations that needed simplicity, so you learned to be strong instead. And strength worked. It kept you functioning. It kept you respected. It kept you moving forward when stopping would have been too costly. But over time, strength becomes identity, and identity quietly becomes limitation. You may begin to feel uneasy when emotions ask for attention, not because they are wrong or excessive, but because they feel disruptive, messy, inefficient. You may feel irritation toward your own vulnerability, impatience with your own needs, a subtle judgment toward parts of you that want comfort instead of competence. And this creates a quiet internal hierarchy where composure is valued and softness is sidelined, where control feels trustworthy and openness feels risky. You trust the version of yourself that stays regulated and composed, and you distrust the version that feels deeply and unpredictably. So when something hurts, you stabilize instead of staying with it. When something matters, you manage instead of opening, and people continue to see you as strong without seeing the effort it takes to maintain that strength. The constant monitoring, the subtle vigilance, the ongoing regulation, without seeing how often you swallow words that want to be spoken, how often you move on before something has landed, how often you choose understanding over closeness. And you may not see it clearly either, because emotional avoidance doesn't feel like avoidance when it's wrapped in maturity. It feels like wisdom, like balance, like having things together. But the body knows the difference. It knows when emotions are processed and when they are postponed. It knows when strength is supportive and when it is protective, and it responds quietly, through fatigue without a clear source, through disconnection even in meaningful moments, through restlessness in times of stability, through a sense that something essential is missing even when everything appears to make sense. This is the quiet cost of always being strong, not collapse or crisis, just distance, distance from your own inner movement, from the subtle signals that tell you what matters, from the vulnerability that allows experience to feel real and alive. And when strength becomes a reflex, emotions don't disappear, they lose their language. They begin to express themselves sideways, through tension, irritability, heaviness, a low persistent emptiness that doesn't respond to solutions. And you may try to meet this with more strength, more understanding, more control, but what's missing isn't insight, it's permission, not permission to fall apart, but permission to stay with what arises instead of immediately managing it. This is where the story softens, because being strong was never the problem. Strength protected you, it carried you, it allowed you to survive and continue. The difficulty begins only when strength becomes the only way you are allowed to exist, when composure replaces presence, when resilience replaces feeling, when stability becomes a wall instead of a base. And you didn't choose this consciously, you learned it in response to what life asked of you. Learning can be honored without being repeated automatically. And this isn't about rejecting strength or letting go of what helped you survive. It's about recognizing what that strength has been protecting you from. Because sometimes strength is a bridge, and sometimes it becomes a wall. And noticing which one it has become doesn't require effort or change, only awareness. You may begin to notice the moments when you default to control, when you explain instead of feel, when you move past something before it has finished moving through you. Not to correct it or stop it, just to witness it, because witnessing brings choice back into patterns that became automatic, and choice doesn't demand action. It simply creates space where you can remain strong and present, composed and connected, capable and alive inside your own experience. There is no urgency here, no requirement to soften faster than you're ready, no expectation to become someone different. Only the quiet understanding that strength, when it becomes the only option, can also become a form of avoidance, not because it is wrong, but because it learned its role too well, and understanding that allows the body to exhale just a little. You don't need to dismantle anything or undo what has kept you safe. You only need to see it clearly, to recognize that the strength you rely on came from care, from awareness, from a deep desire to remain intact. And that same care can now include staying with yourself, not just standing above what you feel. You can let that recognition settle slowly, without conclusions, without demands, without pressure to change. Just a quiet awareness that being strong was never the whole story, and that you are allowed to exist beyond it, even if nothing shifts right away. Because for this moment it is enough to notice, to feel the weight of what you have carried, and to rest, briefly, in the knowledge that you no longer have to carry it without being seen, even by yourself.